Cetulakunamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagninirvatam Shriya Kairava Chandrakravitaranam Vidyavadujivanam Anandam Gurivardhanam Pratipadam Puranamritasvaram Sarvatma Snapanam Padam Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the UK Sankirtan Hour podcast. This is episode 15 of our marathon series. It's amazing. Keep up the good work, everyone. Only a little bit left to go, but today we've got Amrita Tattva, who's one of my good old friends from Wales, or from Germany via Wales. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thanks for having me, Prabhu.
Haribol. Amrita Tattva is one of those persons that when you hear his name, you just immediately think book distribution. Like, he's always absorbed in trying to improve his technique, and yeah, he's just so absorbed in book distribution. I don't know anyone like him. I was just thinking, I know that you, throughout the year, your main service is book distribution, and you spend a lot of time listening to other book distributions for inspiration. I'm correct with that, right? Yeah. So like, how do you find hearing from book distribution? How do you find that hearing from book distributors affects your Sankirtan? Like,
yeah, it's just inspiring, like to just get different angles for me as well. It's not just, like I go out and think like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, but I think, like it's good to be creative as well, especially in Sankirtan. It's like actually quite spontaneous, and you can improvise a lot. You can make it happen. I heard before as well. Like, for example, if you give a lecture, you can wing things a bit, because you can talk your way a little bit into it, like be charismatic. But if you have like a written exam, you can't really do that. Either you know the facts or you don't. So Sankirtan, you can wing it a bit. And, I lost my flow now. What was the question again? About inspiration?
Yeah, just the correlation between hearing from Sankirtan, from book distributors, and the effect that has on your book distribution.
Yeah, it's good if you try to like associate with like-minded devotees, especially like Sankirtan devotees, if you want to do the service as well. Because even like sometimes we might feel like a little bit envious of someone. We think like, oh, why is he like doing better than me or so? But in that moment, we might not want to hear from them. But if we actually hear from them, that will help us to improve as well. I was just like listening to like a little lecture from like Manida Prabhu, and he was speaking about how we have to go first, part of the senses, then we have to go part of the mind, then past the intelligence, and then the false ego. And he was saying like the false ego we go past by humility. We're like, oh please, I was saying that was quite an interesting point.
So how long have you been doing book distribution for yourself?
For yourself, I mean, basically since I moved into the ashram in Cardiff, so 5 years ago. And before that, I went out like a few times in Berlin, where I used to live, but not like very structured. And I went out in Cologne a few times.
Because I remember even when we were out in India just recently, you continued with book distribution. It seems like something that you have to do, right?
Yeah, it's kind of part of the sadhana, and it also creates more like rasa in your like spiritual practices, and your like reading and chanting. It just feels somehow like there's more reciprocation coming out of it. Because only a few like small number of us will actually get just inspired by reading, like for hours and hours and hours. Others of us will have to do some service to get inspired. Yeah.
I mentioned it in the introduction that you have this kind of, I remember from the very first time you came to the temple, you were writing like copious notes and really trying to understand the philosophy. And just my observation of you as a devotee around me is like, you're really studying Sankirtan and trying to break it down and understand it as a process. Did you have any insights or any revelations from studying Sankirtan and then trying to practice it yourself?
I mean, one thing I had recently is more like in relation to also like reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So like, cause I remembered when I started reading Bhagavatam in Germany and was like living on my own. And I remember that day I went outside into a park and had the book with me and was reading for like half an hour, and it was like really difficult to get into it. And I was thinking like, what are you doing? Why are you reading it? You know? And then, but now, you know, since like 5 years I've been in the ashram, and it just feels like almost, you know, like Bhagavatam is like reciprocating with you. I had it the other day on the street, and like I was in a place called Huddersfield, and it wasn't going so well. And I flick it open, and exactly where I was reading, the next verse was saying something like, you know, you got to patiently tolerate, you know, people being not very respectful to you, insulting you, and the devotee should just, you know, like smile on and say, okay, have a nice day. Something like that was saying, you know, and it just really feels like there's more like a, you know, like a reciprocation there. And I remember also like when I was going to the temple in Berlin, like the temple president would give a lecture, and he would say like every purport of Srimad Bhagavatam and every verse the Prabhupada wrote is like a personal letter to you, you know. And I was thinking like, oh, it sounds very poetic, and you know, but you know, I wasn't feeling like that, you know. I was thinking like, oh, yeah, personal letter, it sounds nice, you know, but it didn't really feel like that. But now it feels like, you know, okay, there's actually some, you know, like reciprocation there, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're reminding me of, I think in the first canto it says that by serving the person Bhagavat and serving the book Bhagavat, it's all kind of connected. I can't remember the verse specifically, but I guess by serving the books and by distributing them, it's connected, you know. It's like it's alive. It's not just a mundane activity.
Yeah.
I kind of like that answer as well, because I was asking about the kind of external structure of book distribution, and your answer was actually about the kind of internal aspect of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because that's one thing I find as well in book distribution. We want to be like really try to see the world with a spiritual vision. Like one thing I try, you know, I'm not saying that I manage it every time, but if you distribute a book and you think, and especially when you ask for a donation, you just try to think about, you know, like the Lord in the heart, you know, like I try to think about think about a Gaurani Thai, you know, because sometimes we ask them, you know, oh, you know, can you please take the book, give a donation, and you think like, oh, what do they think, or you know, are they going to take it or not going to take it, you know? But if you just think, oh, please Krishna, let them take it, and then even if they don't take it, I always find I feel better, like, oh yeah, okay, so just let them off the hook, you know, let them go, you know, and you know, maybe next person, you know. Otherwise, we can be if we become a bit too attached, and you know, like it spoils it, you know. Yeah.
So you're kind of allowing Krishna to work rather than trying to control it ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. It really is. Yeah, it's a nice aspect of book distribution, how it is kind of there's different moving parts. You have Krishna, you have the conditioned soul, the living entity, you have yourself and your conditioning, and it's kind of an interplay between those different things, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But ultimately, Krishna is supreme controller.
Yeah.
It's like Upadrasha Numantasha Bharata Bhokta Maheshwara. He's the overseer and permitter. So he's ultimately doing that and like inspiring us from within, you know, for the spiritual master.
Wow, nice. Do you have any verses that you've been thinking of recently?
I've been reading this one really nice verse on the Bhagavatam, so I thought about sharing that. You don't mind?
Sure.
This is from 11 Canto. It's a really nice book. I recommend getting it. It's part of a set. So it comes in. So the latter part of 11 Canto is like conversation between Uddhava and Krishna, because Krishna is about to roll off his like wind up his pastimes, and then Uddhava says like, "Oh, you can't wind it up, you know, without giving me further instructions." So it's like it's even more elaborate than the Bhagavad Gita. And so this is a prayer from Uddhava. It's 11 Canto, chapter 19, text 10. O Almighty Lord, please be merciful and uplift this hopeless living entity who has fallen into the dark hole of material existence. where the snake of time has bitten him. In spite of such abominable conditions, this poor living entity has tremendous desire to relish the most insignificant material happiness. Please save me, my Lord, by pouring down the nectar of your instructions, which awaken one to spiritual freedom. What I really like about the verse is like we fall into like a dark hole, like ignorance, and then there's like a snake, like imagine you fall into a dark place, you don't know where you are, but then you like notice there's a snake, so that would be like, it would be really intense if you actually, like we just went to India and there are snakes there, like here we think like, okay, there's not going to be a snake, there are no snakes here, except you're in a zoo or something. But imagine you're in the dark, you fall in a dark hole, and there's actually a snake, and it says we're in that hole and the snake of time has bitten us, so it's only a question, like we don't know how long it's going to be left. It's quite interesting verse.
And what was the second half of the verse?
Yeah, and it says like all of us are in such abominable condition, we're like striving for material happiness, all you like in such a like dangerous state, like we're striving for happiness, and then basically all of us asking, for the nectar that comes from Krishna's lotus feet. And the previous verse is really nice as well, which speaks about that the lotus feet of the Lord are like a umbrella that is constantly pouring down nectar. And Prabhupada speaks about like Prithu Maharaj, when he was made a king, then someone, I think Vayu, gave him an umbrella that was constantly pouring down like little drops of water. So especially when you're in a hot place, this is very, very nourishing and very nice.
Wow. And I guess we're distributing that nectar.
That's the
idea, right?
We're distributing that nectar that comes from the Lord's lotus feet. So we're dropping some. We've been infected by Krishna consciousness, so we're trying to pass it on.
Nice.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta